We're entering this ritual that is known as Kol Nidre, all vows. And many of you know, and for some of you this might be a first, that on the eve of Yom Kippur, for many hundreds of years now, we begin by saying everything we said this past year is deleted. I take responsibility for the words of my mouth, for my promises, my best intentions, for my vows. And I see some newlyweds here. You are exempt on that particular. But this is a legal formula. It is a spiritual invitation to take our promises to ourselves and to each other seriously. By beginning this night, reflecting on what I may have said this year, for which I am actually sorry, because I did not walk my talk. So what we want to do right now, rather than go right into us rising up into Kol Nidre, is to invite us to reflect on this for just a moment. And honestly, to close your eyes and let something come from your inner archive that is an honest acknowledgement of where have I fallen short of my promises. Whether that's my exercise routine, or how much money I was going to donate, the words of love to partners or to friends, how I was going to change the world this year, and didn't. The small, the big, let it come. And in just a few seconds, we're going to invite you, as you've already begun, introducing each other to each other as this DNA community gathers for this first and maybe only time, to kindly turn to each other and for about 4 minutes, maybe 3, share, if you want. What is one promise, one vow that I'm taking responsibility for this year, that I have not fulfilled, that I want to let go? Maybe I'll take it again this year, maybe not. For those of you online, you might be sitting with someone else, but if not, we invite you to write it in the comments. Let us witness and let us be each other's holders in this moment of acknowledging before we annul our vows. Can we talk? Let's do it.
Promise you made that you didn't.
I didn't write my book. I wrote my mother's, but not my book. I maybe not have done enough to fall in love, but I'm not taking really responsibility for that one, a little bit. What about yours?
I didn't make my album next year. My album. I didn't make my album this year. And I surrendered. I didn't stay on top of my physical health this year.
Yeah. wish I had access to the comments, but okay, whatever. That's fine. It's happening. Pastor David Rosa has arrived. Shalom Aleichem.
Come again. Come again. Come, whoever you are, even if you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come again. Come, whoever you are. Come again. Come, whoever you are. Come again. Come, whoever you are. Come again. Come, whoever you are.
Thank you, folks online, for sharing in our comments. And for those of you here, there was a buzz of what is perhaps the sound of atonement, of responsibility, the things we wanted to do this year and didn't, the things we might or not. But we're going to go now into Kol Nidre, into this ritual formula that is recited 3 times. That makes it a legalized formula of annulment, of release. And as we sing and play this ritual prayer 3 times, we invite you to go inside and really let the year be lifted up with what has happened and what you are ready to let go. And as we do so, Jeremy will lead us. And we'll be led by Marcus's beautiful voice. We'll all sing together for the 3rd one. And we want to invite, in just a moment, the folks from our passage group, our adult rites of passage, who have spent almost a year learning about becoming grown-ups and taking time to ask big questions about life. We shall be graduating together in November. With gratitude to Ben, to Rona, to Stefan, to our passage team. So passage folks, you'll be invited up to help us open the ark. And I'm not sure if the lighting is intentional. I kind of like it.
They're working
No, I like this too. Okay. No attachment. We're going to invite the passage folks up in just a moment to help us open the ark. And then with Stephanie's help, we have 2 Torah scrolls, our Storah Torah and the one we got on loan from our beloved friends, the Rosenthals. And there'll be 2 Torah scrolls going through our sacred space tonight with an invitation for you all, if you would like to very briefly, as in 2 seconds, hold on to these sacred objects and then just pass them on. We hope that we'll have enough time to have these Torah scrolls meet every single one of you. And if not, they will be here later tonight, all day tomorrow, as another opportunity to be connected to what's sacred, to embodied into you. So I want to invite the passage folks to come on up and join us on the bima as we begin this Kol Nidre.
של אמור
Just a minute.
Esarei v'karamnei v'konamnei v'kinuyei v'kinusei u'shavut. Din darna udeishtabana udeakari imna vedasar na nafshatana miyom kippurim zeh ad yom kippurim haba aleinu Tova kulhom ikarat navehon kulhon yehon sheran shvikin shevitin betelin umvutalin lasheririn vela kayamin nidrana la nidre ve'esarana la esare u'shavuatana la shavut.
All vows, oaths, and promises, which we made to our deepest source
and
and
to
to others, but were not able to fulfill.
From last Yom Kippur to this Yom Kippur, may all these vows, oaths, and promises be annulled. May there be voided and of no effect. May we be forgiven for them and released from them. May these vows not be considered vows. May these oaths not be considered oaths. And may these promises not be considered promises.
Take a deep breath, everyone. And on your next out breath, say, let it go.
I invite you to gently sit. Those of you at home as well. I hope the Torah made their journeys to most of you. If you did not get a chance to hold the Torah, give yourself a hug. We are the sacred scroll. And it'll be here, and tomorrow at Neilah, we have the chance to come up all evening long. So friends, this is a strange ceremony that we are part of. Some of us are barefoot, wearing shroud-like garments or white. We've begun a fast for the next 25 hours. This ancient day of Kippur, of Atonement, is a dress rehearsal for our death. It is a wake-up call for how to live. For how to live. So when we come back here, may it be next year and say, Shehecheyanu, that we know that we've given all we can to every walk and every talk of living lives more fully. The traditions we inherited are old and some of them are new. Tonight we're focusing, as we have been doing for the last 40 days, on this word on your screen, Shiviti. And those of you who've been with us already from the beginning and Rosh Hashanah already heard our spiel. So here's another twist. And those of you just joining us for the first time, what is Shiviti? Shiviti is a Hebrew word. It is a Jewish concept, simultaneously a visual art form found in many, many synagogues for thousands of years as a visual reminder of focusing in the presence of the infinite. And we'll be sharing more Shivitis, and you can make your own out in the lobby tonight and tomorrow. There's been amazing creations so far. Shiviti is also a word for meditative technique, for a type of contemplation. Based on these 4 words, Shiviti, Adonai, Havaya, Lenigdi Tamid, that comes from the Psalms. And tonight, we're going to focus on the 3rd word. On the first eve of the year in Rosh Hashanah, we began with the word Shiviti. I focus, I imagine, I set in front of me. On the day of Rosh Hashanah, we focused on the 2nd word, on Havaya, or Yud Hey Vav Hey, on the many, many names of the infinite. And we are still God optional and everybody friendly, and we're inviting ourselves into presence in so many ways. Tonight, we're focusing on this 3rd word, Lenegdi. What is in front of me? What am I seeing? How am I seen? And tomorrow we'll look at the 4th word, Tamid, always. I got an email earlier this week from somebody who was with us on Rosh Hashanah for the first time. Thank you, Richard, for your gracious note in which you said, thank you for reinventing Judaism, Lab Shul. We do our best. I've finally felt at home in my ancestor's house. And beyond the nice words, Richard pointed out that Shiviti is something known as a contronym. Thank you, Richard. I know you're here tonight. I won't put you on the spot. Contronym is, I don't know, because I'm ESL, but contronym is a word that simultaneously carries different meanings, opposite meanings. Like the word left. Somebody just left the building, which means somebody is left behind. So the word left is a contronym. Or the word transparent. It is obvious, but also invisible. And the word Shiviti is a contronym, because simultaneously I'm seeing you, seeing me. I'm in the presence of you. But it is also about me being completely in the presence of me. Shiviti and Lenegdi is an opportunity to find how to be in opposite and in relation. And we're going to focus on this word Lenegdi tonight as we invite ourselves to see each other, even with the masks, and hopefully soon without, at home and here. We'll come back to Shiviti. For now, I want to invite you to perhaps take another deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. And if you feel comfortable and able here and at home, very gently, in the spirit of Shiviti, rise to face this moment, this night, as we say Baruch Hu in the plural. And take a look around. With your eyes, catch Shiviti with someone else.
Chai. 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 A breath. In the presence of the infinite, we watch with awe as today becomes night, like a word exhaled.
Wisdom opens every gate. The change of seasons brings understanding. Time and space and stars move with meaning and purpose.
Notice the endless process of creation. Day becomes night. Light rolls from the darkness. Dawn rises again and again. Each change a manifestation of the soul of the universe.
May we be guided now as always by living an eternal mystery in the presence of the infinite. We are blessed by this and every evening.
This blessing of being chosen to live this life with love leads us into the Shema. That one line that many of us know by heart, that has been handed down through many generations. So those who started this new year with us, may have already noticed that with the spirit of Shiviti and imagining the presence of the infinite that we are in and with this year, we're also taking, with respect, some lab-like liberties with what this one line, the Shema, might look and sound like. So you will see here the slide that many of you know in Hebrew, and the name of the divine that shows up twice is Adonai. It's written with 2 yuds. That is the name that we inherited, the patriarchal Godhead, whom we often name. It is a nickname, Adonai. It is still He, it's still transcendent. And so, with permission from our Kabbalistic ancestors, we want to try, when we invoke the name of this divine existence, the word Havaya. Those are the same 4 letters as the name that we inherited, but those letters turned upside down are not a masculine, transcended God force, although even that is a metaphor, but simply being, simply existence, simply what is coursing in our veins right now. So as we sing the Shema on this night, we invite you to feel what it is that you are in the presence of. What is your nigdi? Are you going to go with Adonai or Havaya? Will you find another secret pet name for the sense of presence that is coursing now inside your heart? We'll sing together as one, but find our own way home. This piece of art was made for us by our friend Jacqueline Nichols, an artist in London, inviting us to really take this Shema moment, every single fiber of our mind, and of our heart, and of our body, and of our soul. As all is one. Shem Kevod
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ופרוס עלינו ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ופרוס עלינו ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך ופרוס
Source of peace, let us sleep tonight in peace and rise tomorrow with ease, eager for another day. Each and every evening is a privilege. We are grateful for the love that protects us from below and shelters us from above. Let us be protected from fear and hate, from disease and despair, accident, enemies, and war. May we be safe from violence within and beyond, and may we come and go in peace. ברוך אתה אדוני הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל
So many words to follow here. I get lost. And my hope for everyone here, and my New Year's wish for everyone here, is that we all get lost. Shiviti for me has been a matter of lost so that I can get found, that kind of getting lost. So, for those of you familiar with the opening to the Amidah, this rising prayer, you may be missing that line that says, Adonai svatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Divine, meet me at my lips so that I can use my mouth to pray. Meet me right here. And Shiviti is a totally different opening into this meditation. Shiviti says, just be. No expectations. Meet me. Shiviti just says, I am. So we bring you a way to sing this, which is an invitation to just climb inside this scale. You know the scale. It's the key of A. And it goes, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti. Exactly. That section in particular. And you can enter anywhere you want. As long as you're willing to take a deep breath, let your vocal cords buzz, and you start to sing. So I'll call you in. You just say yes, Shira. Come in. Ready? I'm not gonna look. Yeah, you can come in and you can stay right on the shh the whole time.
יסוד. חכמים ונבונים ומלמד דעת מבינים, אפתחה פי בתפילה ובתחנונים, לכלות ולחנן פני רוח מלכי מלכים ואדוני אדונים.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומל החסדים הטובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. I believe in being ready. I believe in being ready. I believe in being ready, for the time is drawing near.
Let's do it all together.
I believe in being ready. I believe in being ready. I believe in being ready, for the time is drawing near. Beloved family, please get ready. Beloved family, please get ready. Beloved family, please get ready, for the time is drawing near. Hearts will open with compassion. Hearts will open with compassion. Hearts will open with compassion, for the time is drawing near. זוכרנו לחיים, רוח חפץ בחיים, וחותמנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. זוכרנו לחיים, רוח חפץ בחיים, וחותמנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. זוכרנו לחיים, רוח חפץ בחיים, וחותמנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. רוח עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני. מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל. מחלקי חיים בחסד, בחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים והופך חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עבר, מכמוך ברא כגבורות ומידו בדעת, רוח מביט ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מכמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים. ברוך אתה ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, תעבור לפניך תפילתנו, שאין אנחנו עוזב אני לפניך ויה אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, צדיקים אנחנו ולא חטאנו, אבל אנחנו ואבותינו ואימותינו חטאנו.
acted from aggression.
בגדנו,
We betrayed each other's humanity.
גזלנו,
We gave too little.
דיברנו דופי,
We denied difficult truths.
האבינו,
We took too much space.
והרשענו,
We viciously gossiped.
זדנו,
We zoned out.
חמסנו,
We chose comfort too often.
טפלנו שקר,
We took for granted.
We yielded to precedent.
Keys of new.
Keys of new. We closed our minds.
Lots new.
Lots new. We lied.
Marad new.
We made biased decisions.
Niats new.
We neglected.
We stayed silent. We engaged in environmental destruction. We privileged the patriarchy. We stood by when others were objectified. We kept too much for ourselves.
We remained apathetic. We showed children we care less for them than for guns. We thought of ourselves too much. We thought of ourselves not enough. We took too long to rise up and to protest.
בספר חיים, ברכה ושלום, ופרנסה טובה.
Let there be this year a page for each one of us in the book of life. And you can choose the font, the size, the illustrations. And let's sit down to think of that. So as we gather here tonight, my friends, this is for many of us, the only night a year we meet. For some it's more. For some this is our very first time together. So once again, welcome and welcome back. It's good to be together in this room. It's been several years. And though we aced it on the Zoom, and thank you for the Upstate City Winery, Michael. We've been here before and we've been in other places, and even those of you with us online, this on some level feels together. So what we really want to talk about tonight is what it means and what it feels and how it can be more together. To get it together, to be more together. I think it is no secret for any one of us, wherever we are from, that at this moment in our lives, there is so much more isolation and loneliness. There are so many more raw conflicts in this city, in this country, on this planet, in each of our internal realities, in our domestic spheres. So what does it feel? What will it be? How do we do our best to somehow get it together and be a little more together? Because I think we know what is at stake. So what I want to talk about tonight is how Shiviti, this theme we chose for this high holy season and for this entire year, might be just one more tool in our human toolbox to be better at being and at being together. Not just one night a year, but hopefully every single one of them. Shiviti, as I said before, is both an art form. You're seeing one sample, wacky one on the screen. More about that in a moment. And it's a meditative technique that again we come back to, as Shira beautifully taught us. And as we throughout the season heard, it is a way to be more here and now. We need that as an extra needed tool to deal with what is always coming. The one that's on the screen is a 19th century Americana from the Jewish Museum collection in New York. There's a lot going on there. I invite you to do what the Shiviti is inviting you to do. By the way, the word Shiviti in this one are tiny, right above this multi-purpose, everybody-friendly Western wall. But I invite you to see what grabs your eye. Just spend 3 seconds, see what you're looking at. It's going to look right back at you. I want you to notice the lions. We'll come back to them. This is one of many forms of Shiviti. So tonight we'll see how Shiviti shows up as a reminder not just to be in spiritual mindfulness, but how to help us be and change the world. Last week we met here for Rosh Hashanah. We said hello to brand new 5783, and we bid farewell to last year, which was the year of the release, the year of the Shemitah, where land lets fallow for a year, ideally, and we take time off to release and to let go and to find better balance between work and life. Some of us did, some of us didn't. Shemitah is not the most popular Jewish thing on anybody's list right now, and that's a shame. But should you have missed Shemitah completely, tonight you got one more chance to observe this ancient commandment. Shemitah is not only about taking time to let go, and you are all, I know this is New York, workaholics, and so it helps to remember that we have techniques to let go, to not always work. Shemitah is also about coming together once every 7 years to remember what it's like to be. And on the screen you see 2 lines from the book of Deuteronomy, from Sefer Devarim, that says that at the end of every 7 years, that's now, there is this instruction to come together. Moses instructs them, us, the people, at the end of 7 years on the Feast of Sukkot. That's in a week, but I won't see you, so this is it. Gather the people, the men, the women, the children, the strangers in your community, everybody, so we can hear and learn, revere, and observe the words of this Torah. So once in every 7 years, there was this invitation to do what sometimes now happens once a week, a Torah teaching. Maybe you go to a Bible class, or maybe you follow my Below the Bible Belt daily blog. I don't know. But back then, there was no expectation that we will do anything more than meet once in 7 years to connect around our sacred story, to be reminded of where we come from and what is the key text of our ethical and moral tradition, the Torah. And so you might be wondering, if we only meet once in 7 years, what would be the text on that big occasion? What will be the highlight? Once in 7 years, you get to choose a big topic. What's it going to be from the Torah? Creation? Cosmology and myth? Is it going to be the Exodus? How to remember human dignity and freedom? Is it going to be the binding of Isaac? About faith and patriarchy, main stage? Well, you might be wondering what might be the key teaching that will keep people after 7 years excited and ignited to be part of this community. And there is an answer, which we'll get to in a moment, and the hint that it is connected to this line, Shiviti. Shiviti Havaya Lenigdi Tamid, we already sang it and talked about it, is an invitation to be present. And that third word, Lenigdi, reminds us that we are invited, nay, required, to look each other eye to eye, to see what's right in front of us, whether we believe in God or not, whether you do or do not have a spiritual practice. Lenigdi is the invitation to be in presence of what's in front of you. Right now, it's you. For those of you with eyes still open, that might be me. And so the next line comes from Genesis. When we talk about lenegdi, I am imagining, I am in the presence of what's in front of me. Here comes the creation of humanity. When the divine says it isn't good for us to be alone, human loneliness will not serve us well. So from the very beginning, this first human is created, and the divine says, "E'eselo ezer kenegdo." I will create a fitting counterpart, a helpmeet, an other, to be balanced magnetically, one against the other. That is perhaps Adam and Eve or Adam and Lilith, depends which version you want. But basically, from the very beginning of creation, we are not alone, as we sang earlier. It is about mutuality. That is how procreation happens, and that's how most of us find solace in the other, in so many ways. So there is lenegdi tamid, I imagine something in front of me always, and kenegdo. We are born, we are created with this moment of dependency. As babies, I need the other to take care of me. We are born with dependency on other, and that is how we humans are. Kenegdo. I need someone, and whether there is or isn't partnerhood or partnership, love or a relationship, we are in mutual relationship with each other from babyhood onwards. But there comes a moment in our life when we can choose not just to be kenegdo, as in the lines of Genesis, but le-negdi. I choose to open up my eyes. I choose to not just be with the relationship of those I know and those that I'm usually depending on, but take another step and open up my eyes after going deep inside to understand mutuality, to understand the moral responsibility of the other, not just the ones I like, especially not those. If we are living in a moment when there is so much conflict, and need I list the top 5 on this morning's news? What still is coming to terms in this country because Roe versus Wade, this versus, VS, that's lenegdi. That's a place when we are not in mutual relationship, but in opposition, because we do not see each other, because it is not eye to eye. We do not see the humanity of the people here. It is about political, religious. It is about some kind of dogma. We are not seeing each other eye to eye. So there is conflict. What's happening right now in Iran is a product of people saying, we don't want to just be objects. There is a change here. There is a demand for being seen and for seeing and for dignity, eye to eye. Lenegdi, in mutuality, not just dependence. And I can talk about what's happening in my beloved homeland, Israel and Palestine, where there's a wall dividing people so they do not have to see each other. And there is no together when you are saying, that's not me, and that's not me, and that's not we. So there's no seeing of each other. And that's what's happening in the Ukraine and Russia, and that is what's happening with immigrants on our border who are treated as baggage, and with a divide that is simply not allowing us to just look each other face to face, eye to eye, lenegdi, and say, I wasn't born your sister, brother, we are not the same, but can I look you in the eye? So we can minimize, so we can open up our eyes, so we can close our eyes and find some source within that gives us reason to open them so we can really see each other. Because right now, I don't think we do. I don't know how many of you take the subway in New York. No one's looking up, and it isn't just because we have our nose inside our iPhones. The plague of isolation and the fear of other is a real thing. And so we're not going to solve it tonight, but there's a tool in our toolbox. This tool we call Shiviti, a reminder to not just be inside ourselves and find some source, but how to open up our eyes in a brand new way, perhaps starting today. I want to share a teaching from a teacher of mine named Andrew Harvey, a queer elder, a Sufi mystic, who says the following: a spirituality that is only private and self-absorbed, one devoid of an authentic political and social consciousness, does little to halt the suicidal juggernaut of history. You can stare at your pupik all day long, as my father used to say. And sometimes meditation is excellent. But there's more. On the other hand, an activism that isn't purified by profound spiritual and psychological self-awareness and rooted in divine truth, wisdom, and compassion will only perpetuate the problem it is trying to solve, however righteous its intentions. When, however, the deepest and most grounded spiritual vision is married to a practical and pragmatic drive to transform all existing political, economic, and social institutions, a holy force, the power of wisdom and love in action is born. That holy force is what we call sacred activism. So from his book, The Hope, A Guide to Sacred Activism, I want to say a couple more words about how we get there. Because I think you'll all agree, of course we want to be sacred activists. Of course we want to live up to both spiritual, contemplative care and being helpful in the world. The question is how? How are we going to sit here a year from now and on our Kol Nidre list of all the vows I made, there will be hopefully one less of how I wanted to do things for better and I didn't. So here's a suggestion. To Shiviti, to embody the sense of sacred activism, we have some tools. You might join us later tonight. Melila and Koshin will lead us with teachings, ancient teachings from Buddhist and Jewish mystic ways. Tomorrow afternoon, Naomi Les, Rebecca, Shira, Ari will be part of our team of all faith leaders who will also teach us what Shiviti looks like in their respective traditions. And it's going to be a female-identified, non-binary, and trans voices only on this stage, to signify a moment where we're saying to the patriarchal tradition we inherited, let's level the playing field. Those too are Shiviti ways. Reverend Derek McQueen and I will be teaching another session of our Undoing Racism, looking at spiritual practice tomorrow afternoon as well. Those are just three things tomorrow and tonight to walk our talk of the Shiviti. And there are so many ways you're already doing it. From volunteering, from finding ways to walk your talk. I want to talk about one more way and one more story that's a little tough. But that's one of the reasons why we're here talking about Shiviti in the first place. I want to introduce you to an author whose name is known as Katsetnik. That is a pseudonym. His born name was Yechiel Feiner, born in Poland in 1919. A poet, a Yiddishist. In 1939, when the war breaks out and then the Holocaust happens, he finds himself a young man in Auschwitz for 2 years. And he survives. In 1945, the war is over. Still in his uniform, he begins feverishly writing several books that will become very popular and translated. They are horrible books in the sense of horror. They're about somewhere between fiction and memoir, about sexual and violent crimes. And he has been challenged whether how much of it is stuff that he experienced. But those books had a drastic experience and impact on the lives of many over years. And he was not able to sleep for many, many years of his life. This book came much later, and I'll come back to it in a moment. It's called Shiviti. It is a vision. On June 7th, 1961, he rose to testify in Jerusalem at the Eichmann trial. And for the first time, his pseudonym, Katzetnik, was exposed. His name was Yechiel Dinur. He changed it from Feiner. He fainted famously on this day when confronted with the history. And many, many years later, about 15 years later, having not slept, according to his personal testimony, since 1945, he was finally convinced to go to the Netherlands and go on special PTSD treatment for people dealing with trauma. And he was treated with LSD, with medicine that helped his consciousness expand. And after several months, he felt like he touched some place of trauma and he was able to begin to live again and sleep. And it took him a decade to write this book called Shiviti, from which I'll read to you 2 short parts. This is from his second LSD journey. I lift my eyes to the Auschwitz skies, suspended. Against the horizon is the vision of the Shiviti, like the one usually hung framed in front of the eyes of the prayer leader in the synagogue. But the Shiviti of our synagogue looks quite different here against the sky of Auschwitz. Here it is aflame like a torch, the flowing colors of the rainbow. The awe of it upon me, I stand in the truck, one in a mass of skeletons. I stand there and stare at the letters Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, glowing from within the Shiviti, an otherworldly light. I stare at the twin lions, one to the left and one to the right, keeping watch between them over the secret combination I have set, Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey, Shiviti, before me always. Here the lions' faces become human, and the wings are spread. The letters of the divine name intertwine, writhing one into the other, while I cry out, God, God, who decreed this, God? Auschwitz, whose is it? I tremble as I lift my eyes to see the face of God inside God's initials. But what I see instead is the face of the SS man standing below the tailgate of the truck, and he's yawning. O Lord of Auschwitz heavens, illumine my ignorance of your handiwork so that I might know who is the being within me now delivered to the crematorium and why. And who is the being within him delivering me to the crematorium and why? For you know that at this moment the two of us, dispatcher and dispatched, are equal sons of man, both created by you in your image. In this book that documents 6 medicine journeys of trauma care, this is just the beginning. But what keeps happening throughout his journey is that he understands that in the deepest place of his worst nightmare, his enemy is him and him is he. Shiviti enabled Yechiel Dinur to understand the depth of human responsibility, both moral depravity and moral responsibility as one. He spoke on 60 Minutes in the late 70s and said, I've changed my mind since the Eichmann trial. There is no other planet. The places of atrocity are no different than where you and I live. Every single one of us has an Eichmann inside. Now, I'm not saying it needs plants, medicine, or psychedelic journeys to get to the Shiviti, though perhaps sometimes it does. There's definitely a shift in our world in recent years towards legitimacy and how to change our mind in different ways. And we are lucky to have inherited tools for dealing with trauma when it's done well and properly and set and setting. For this man, it has saved his life. Sanity, his sleep. And so it is, as we know, for so many. There's something in that moment in his journey that gave him the tools that we might need today to lessen conflict, to see the other, especially the other we cannot abide by, and remember what he experienced. Later he would write, LSD and every sacred medicine might be just the window that opens our range of vision beyond the limit that our state of consciousness has set, providing that we treat all medicines with the same reverence that the high priest in the Temple of Jerusalem had for the oracle, for the Urim V'Tumim. The abuse of sacred tools and medicine will incur the wrath of the gods. So there's the oracle on the chest of the high priest. And there are the lions from his Shiviti. And look what's in the middle. What's catching your eye smack in the middle of this iconography that was meant to give us focus, to remind us how to live a better life. You see the 10 Commandments, and above them 2 gold cherubs looking face to face and eye to eye. The space between them is the bullseye. So remember the question I asked you some time ago? Every 7 years, the big gathering, what will it be? What is the piece of Torah that is worth investing in so people can walk home with something worthy in their pocket? What will be the section, the verse, the text that we take home? We have an answer. The hidden secret is in the Shiviti, but let me tell you what the ancients say. There is a midrash, a legend from our tradition that says that every 7 years, tonight, when we gather to remember who we are, there is one Torah section where all the others are depending on. There is one verse that is at the center of our experience. And you might know it. It's not going to be a big surprise. But maybe we forget, so we get to remember. The Torah is made up of 5 books. The third is in the middle. In the very middle of the middle, there is a chapter, chapter 19, and in the middle of that, there is a verse. The middle of the entire enterprise, the bullseye of our sacred text, is the next slide, which says, the golden ticket. Love every single person like you love yourself. Whoever designed not just our teachings, but how they are written, made sure that that is at the absolute physical center, the way in that Shiviti, it's in the middle of where these 2 cherubim are looking each other face to face and eye to eye. When we talk about together, Shiviti is just another crumb on the crumb trail home. It is just another reminder, and I'm sorry if it is a cliche, that truly all we need is love. And we might not need any substances for that, but simply to be present. A few years ago, we dedicated love, re-love, ve'ahavta, as our high holy theme. And we brought many, many teachers, including this quote from Bell Hooks, who reminded us that a commitment to spiritual life means we embrace the eternal principle that love is all and everything, our true destiny. It is about interbeing and interconnectedness. So how will you cultivate interbeing and interconnectedness this year? What will together, as an aspiration, feel and look to you this year? When we walk out of here tonight, maybe we'll meet again in 7 years, maybe in a year, maybe tomorrow. How will we walk the talk of Shiviti? So that we lessen conflict, so that we increase love, so that we remember how to look each other in the eye, especially when we are in the midst of conflict. Those are the only questions, really. Whatever tools we need to make it through another year in health, in joy, with pride, with courage, it is gonna basically begin and end with dare we look I'm getting a cue. At Lab Shul, I got it. Thank you, Naomi. At Lab Shul this year, we're going to try Shiviti in a lot of ways. It is an experiment. I hope you join us. I hope you bring your own wisdom to the ancient and the new need of being more together. Now that we are more together. Whether that's through ritual and learning, through activism and volunteering, through co-creating a community that's rooted in the sacred tradition and is reinventing it as we speak. The sacred activism, the holy force. I invite you to just hold your heart for just a second. Take a breath with me. Beyond the words, beyond the songs, in the presence of this intimate, in the presence of the infinite, Shiviti is our invitation to come home and to wake up. And Levinas, who taught us that when you really look somebody in the face, eye to eye, that is the relationship with the future. So friends, can we try? Can we try a little harder to be together, to get it together, to be in this Shiviti space? I hope so. I hope to be here next year knowing that we've tried. I think we'll feel it. May it be. I want to invite Sarah Mullins, who is one of our volunteers and representing so many people who show sacred activism in 1,000 ways, to help us open up the ark for Avinu Malkeinu. I'm inviting you to rise. And I wish us all Gmar Chatima Tova. May we be bound and sealed in the book of love and life together on this and every year. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanechu, Avinu Malkeinu, Mal Aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu. You see in that slide up there, Avinu Malkeinu, the Aleph and the bet of those first two words, that's the word for Abba, or Father, Av. But you see how the letters, the first letter of Avinu and the second letter, the first letter of the second word, Malkeinu, Aleph, Mem. In each line, Aleph, Mem, this is Mother. Lenegdi. Tonight, when we pray Avinu Malkeinu, look into this prayer because she is there. And she is looking back to hold. Avinu Malkeinu, Kol Nidre, v'cherev v'ra'ah me'aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu,
on us. It's on us to support asylum seekers arriving in New York by the thousands. My name is Carol Gross, and I volunteer with Team TLC NYC, which is a group of New Yorkers, volunteers, all, who greet buses at the Port Authority 7 days a week. Thousands of asylum seekers have come. We greet up to 9 buses a day, 50 people on each bus. They're sent from Texas with no food and no water. And sometimes the bathroom doesn't work. We try to provide them with food when they come in and stuffed animals for the children, because it's men, women, and children, including infants, who have walked through 8 countries to get here. We try to provide them with many things. Some days, many days we have food, sometimes we don't. We collect shoes, because many of them come in flip-flops through 8 countries. Clothes, because they have nothing with them when they come, nothing at all. Bags, so that they can carry the things that we collect for them. Toiletries when we have them. They have no soap. We re-ticket the ones who have been separated from their families. We need all these things: shoes, clothes, money to re-ticket them, and for food, and stuffed animals for the children, and bags. You can help us. We also need volunteers. We need regular volunteers, but we need it whenever you can come. You can contact us by signing up on Sign Up Genius, or by emailing me. There's a paper on your way out that you can take with this information and my email. Especially we need coats now and sweatshirts, because they're cold. Aleinu, it's on us.
Aleinu, it's on us.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Carol, Janie, Ivan, and others who are here tonight. A few years ago, we traveled together as our refugee task force to the island of Lesbos in Greece to help the refugee school that was founded by Jewish and Arab Israelis. That school has since closed down, and so I'm so proud and moved that our refugee task force has been working in the city with the Riverside Language School, helping immigrants, and now this grassroots initiative to get out there and do sacred activism, to walk the talk. We will send an email with more information. There are documents outside for you to look at and take and volunteer and join. And I want to say, on the heels of Carol's beautiful, beautiful plea, please support any way you can. And please support us so we can keep on doing this together, from creating these task forces to creating spaces like these and doing what we can all year long. I know many of you paid to be here today. Thank you. And many of you are already partners and supporters of this lab and this shul as we keep evolving. Thank you. That's how we keep happening. Don't stop now. This QR code also takes you to a donate page. And maybe you want to do it tonight, and maybe not tomorrow, but at some point in the next few days, we will be really grateful. It's been a tough couple of years, I think you know, and we're coming out of it, and we are looking forward with some crazy, beautiful projects. And your support goes a very long way. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts to your generosity. My friends, we are about to close. I'm going to begin this Yom Kippur with an apology for running a little bit late. And in just a few moments, we will gather on the stage to hear Sensei Koshin and my teacher, Dr. Melila Heldner Eshed, take us deeper into Zen Zohar. Please don't leave. This is not a great night to binge on Netflix. No, there's great stuff out there. This will be a really profound way to deepen this work. We're going to end with a moment of honoring our ancestors and our beloved souls who are here in spirit. For those of us saying Kaddish for a loved one, as mourners, we invite you to stay standing or rise. If you are at home and watching, I invite you to put the names of your loved ones in the comments. Tomorrow we will say Yizkor, the memorial prayer for our beloved. So this is the night, this is an opportunity to really bring into our hearts all those that we remember. Parents, grandparents, partners, siblings, friends, children, neighbors, and those for whom nobody is saying Kaddish. We suffered a loss just this week in our community. Our dear friend Leah Lynn lost her battle with cancer. We'll be saying Kaddish tonight and tomorrow with her memory in heart, with her beautiful partner Melanie. So let us say Kaddish together as this way of saying we are here and alive right now. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך רעותה וימליך מלכותה, בחייכון וירחון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו, יהא שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה ולעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו. יהא שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים טובים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן.
Amen, amen. Let's sit together. I want to tell you, as you've heard, tomorrow we will be back here. Ari will go ahead and we'll just go to our schedule for tomorrow. So you can see that at 9 a.m., this stage will be warming up, although it's so beautiful already. But we will be warming up and floating into the skies of Yom Kippur Day. Starting at 9 o'clock, there's morning rituals. And families with young children will be outside in the tents, very weatherproof tents we hear, to be warm and cuddly together on our own family-friendly ritual event. 10 o'clock, main ritual begins, but I'll have to tell you a secret. It really starts at 9:45. The music is really good. I want my parents to hear that. Like, get here at 9:45 if you can. Or especially come at 9 for the morning ritual. Tomorrow, service of work goes through 1 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, we will be having our Yizkor memorial. So please, all who are mourning their beloved dead, we will be around 12 o'clock tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, as you heard, there are some very special sessions, a restorative meditation with Sensei Robert Chodo Campbell and Sensei Koshin Paley Ellenson. We have our Raising the Bar community meeting together, and there is also a writing workshop. Wow, rewrite to release. We will be gathering around 4:30 for our All Faith, as you heard a little bit about tonight, and then we will close this day tomorrow for Ne'ilah at 6 o'clock. Also amazing. Don't want to miss any of this. It's really beautiful. I want to spend special gratitudes to all the composers and the artists who weave the fabric of this music tonight. And thank you. And I'm so sorry, I'm out of order here, but Unscrolled is coming up. We'll tell you more about that tomorrow. Let's stay here with us gratitudes. We'll begin our closing with gratitudes as we started tonight.
You should. Even though we're running a few minutes late, we want to end with this ancient priestly blessing. If you feel comfortable, the people you sit next to, hold their hands or hold their shoulder. And those of you at home, we hope you're not alone. And if you are not. And if you feel comfortable, so close your eyes and take this blessing to your heart and then send it onwards.
יברכך אדוני וישמרך יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה יישא
Good night. Gmar Chatima Tova. Thank you for joining us for this first night of Yom Kippur. We're going to ask those of you who are leaving to please do so as quietly as you can and to chat in the lobby. And those of you staying for Zen Zohar, and please do come sit in front. And those of us in line, sit on up. Shana Tova, and thank you for being with us. We'll begin in just a few minutes. put the lights up in the house so that our beloved teachers can see everyone? Hi, everyone. Thank you for staying. I invite those of you in the back, if you want to come closer. We really want to sit in a circle, and we're bummed that we can't. So, and with the masks and all, I can't even tell who most of you all are. But I can tell that's David Lowy and Annie Levy. Oh, my gosh. Thank you for staying, friends. We know this was an emotional start of Yom Kippur, hopefully meaningful. And as we sit, and those of us staying with us online, I'm told there are quite a few hundreds of you still on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for staying. It is a distinct honor to have two dear friends and teachers. You once sat together at a Freedom's Feast, and you both reported having a crush on each other. I will just do a teeny introduction so that we can get into the depth. Melila Helner Eshed, Dr. Melila Helner Eshed, has been my teacher since I was 18, and I'm one of many thousands who are lucky to call her a teacher. She's the author of several books on the Zohar, Judaism's main mystical text. She teaches in Jerusalem and all over the world, and is also very much involved with the Sulcha project, with which she lit the candles here tonight, which brings reconciliation between Palestinians and Israelis to real time, face to face. Melila lives in Jerusalem, and we are so fortunate that you were with us in New York and said yes to doing some fun time on Yom Kippur. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sensei Koshin Campbell has been on the stage plenty. And you and Shodo have really been one of our most beloved teachers and friends and partners of Lab Shul. And the wisdom you bring to us and you bring to the contemplative work you do and the New York Zen Center that you co-founded is a beacon of light. So thank you for joining us on this night to do a bit of Zen with Zohar and to invite us all deeper into Shiviti, forms of being present. I'll say one quick word about the music we just heard as we transitioned, and that was the Hebrew hymn Ben Adam Malecha Nirdam that we often play during the Ne'ilah, the end of Yom Kippur. Human being, why do you sleep? It is a line from the book of Jonah, and it's when Jonah, a reluctant prophet, is trying to close his eyes to the needs of the world, and an anonymous captain, while the storm is threatening the ship, wakes him up and says, Ben Adam Malecha Nirdam, human being, wake up. There is a storm at sea, and you've got your eyes closed. Wake up. So that wake up is part of how we are dealing with this invitation for Shiviti, for sacred activism, from the prism of Jewish mystical texts and Zen, to figure out how we can wake up, even at 9:30 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Well, that's the right time to try and wake up. Is this working?
Yeah.
This is my first time ever in America on Yom Kippur, and thank you for being in the midst of this special congregation. I'm very thankful. I think it's very special. And thank you for willing to do the Zohar Zen that we just want to speak about, I think quite briefly, because it's been so full. I mean, that's what I feel. And we thought that it would be a conversation, because that's the best way that Torah studies and settles down in our blood system and in our soul. But the theme that I just want to introduce, and then we'll talk about it. The theme has to do with awakening, right? Amichai just quoted from that devotional poem of saying, hey man, wake up, get up, there's work to do, like get on deck with everybody. It's all the people from all the races, from all the colors. Everybody's on deck trying to do their best because there's a storm. There's a big storm. And don't stay asleep. Try to wake up. And I was thinking of the fact that in the Jewish mystical tradition, but not just in the Jewish mystical tradition, I think in order to do Shiviti, in order to get on deck, there has to be that call of awakening. And the call for awakening consciousness is not something that, is special or unique to Judaism. I think we find it in all traditions, in all religious traditions, large, small, ancient, newer ones. We have an incredible kind of insight that what we see as a normal state of wakefulness, we think we're awake here. Now, at this hour, I don't even know what we think, but what we imagine is a state of wakefulness is actually seen as a state of kind of soft slumber, that it's not really being awake. And when you go into the mystical tradition, the book of the Zohar, which is what I'm interested in, is replete in hundreds of ways of trying to say, wake up, wake up. And what is very interesting, very, very interesting, and maybe that's already the invitation to where do we come into this. The Zohar doesn't understand waking up in one ideological way. It isn't that you have to wake up to one truth, or that there's one way that we can wake up. No, there's different ways of wakefulness, and there's different ways of getting there. And of course, one of the great questions is, what do we do when we're awake? But before we even look at words here, I want to say words from the text of the Zohar. I want to say that one of the fascinating things is the sense or the intuition that as human beings, we have been given the gift to be more awake. Yeah? We have the tradition that Adam and Eve, when they were created, could see into the future and into the past. They could see from one end of the world to the other. There was something about sight that wasn't filtered over, wasn't covered, wasn't asleep. And therefore, there was that ability to be what we can be. We could live that capacity, and that we've lost that. And I think in the mystical traditions of the Jewish mystical tradition, in the Sufi tradition, very strongly, in the Hindu tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, that's the name of the Buddhist tradition, is about the awakened one, is about waking up. So it's an opportunity for us to talk about different ways of understanding what waking up is about. But I think the fascinating thing in the Jewish tradition is that there isn't a sense that there's some kind of conspiracy. Nobody's really putting us to sleep. It isn't like in Gnostic traditions, or it isn't like, oh, there's huge evil powers trying to intoxicate, put us into that kind of state. But rather, it's something else that's keeping us in that state. And there's many voices calling us to wake up. Maybe we'll talk about them in a minute. So, should I just read this and then we'll talk? Totally?
Can you give us a 2-minute Zohar? What is it?
Oh.
Right? I'm assuming not everybody here is a Zohar scholar.
Of course. I think all I need to say on the eve of Yom Kippur is that Zohar is really the jewel in the crown of Jewish mystical writings of the Middle Ages. It is an incredible piece of spiritual imagination. It is an incredible offering of a new way to look at Judaism. And it's an incredible work of religious art trying to awaken humanity to be closer with divinity and divinity to be mingled with humanity. I think that's enough for Yom Kippur evening instead of doing a formal introduction. But in the Zohar, which it seems was written in the 13th century in Castile, we have all kinds of ways of expression. And one of them is something I'll be reading now from the monitor here in front of me. But it's a moment of a group being in a very special state, right? Being in a very special state called open-eyed, okay? And it just gives you, I'll be reading it, it's not in Hebrew, it's in Aramaic, but I'm reading it in English. But listen to the experience, okay? Will of the deed, the knots of faith, a voice of voices awakened from above and below. Open-eyed we were. A wheel rolled from above to numerous sides, the sound of pleasant melody awakened. Awaken, sleepy, slumbery ones, with sleep in their eyes, who do not know and do not look and do not see. Impervious ears, heavy hearts, they sleep and do not know. The Torah stands before them, and yet they pay no heed and do not know upon what they gaze. They see and yet do not see. The Torah sends forth voices, look, stupid ones, open your eyes, and you will know. Yet there is none who pays heed, and there is none who inclines their ear. For how long will you remain in the darkness of your desire? Look to know, and the enlightening light will be revealed to you. You know, it's a very dramatic, experiential piece, right? This is not something written in a, some cool classroom. This is an expression, very visionary, very powerful, given by people who are in a state of experiencing that state of being open-eyed. So what do you think about removing the darkness and opening our eyes?
I think it's a very good idea. I think that, well, first of all, we were speaking on the phone, the three of us, and one of the things that, first of all, about mysticism, I think that as Jews, I belong to the Jewish tribe who have gone to the Buddhist practice for our mystical experience. And so as a Jew, I really feel very connected to what this text says. And to really think about, for me, it's speaking of experience, about actually how hard it is to wake up. That we kind of know, and we don't do. And so for me, it's quite heartbreaking. There's something about this imploring where it says, awaken sleepy, slumbering ones with sleep in their eyes, who do not know and do not look and do not see. There's a very beautiful Zen story where this Zen teacher is going in front of the monks' halls and he's beating the drum and he's like, bodhisattvas, come eat, bodhisattvas, come eat. And his eyes are streaming with tears because no one comes to eat the food. That we know our wisdom speaks so clearly about our sleepiness. We know. And yet we get so involved in our distraction and our anxiety and our habits and our desires, and mostly our, I like desire, but it's, but I think it's really the clinging to the desire, right? The grasping for desire. Because I think pleasure is quite important, but I think that it's also this real importance of how do we just take a moment and really look at what are we doing with our life on this Yom Kippur, to really look at, as you were leading us, Amichai, in this reflection tonight about how do we really look at what we actually say we value. We know we have to wake up. And maybe to use this time for reflection to say, wow, my actions and my thoughts and my words in this past year really did not match. And to me, it was so beautiful, that part in the service when we're, atoning, being at one with, saying yes, and the importance of that. And to me, the key part of it is to really learn, for myself, is to move from this shaming of ourselves into kind of a healthy embarrassment. To be,
Healthy
to realize that, like, oh my goodness, I'm an idiot. And to have a sense of humor, and to realize, yes, we fall down, we get sleepy again, and we can wake up again. And to me, it's so beautiful and so promising, and actually, more for me, it feels doable, knowing that I will fall down and I can get up. Yeah.
So I want to ask a quick question before we go deeper into the Zohar. I love healthy embarrassment. As you were speaking, both of you, I'm thinking about that moment. Certainly we had it on Rosh Hashanah when we blow the shofar, and we really, really know that the shofar is a wake-up call. That the purpose of the shofar is to be this alarm clock in your head that says you are sleepwalking through your life. And I'm wondering how many times in our lives, in your life, in my life, in our lives, we had a wake-up call. Sometimes it's a crisis. We're literally sleeping at the wheel. And sometimes it's some kind of a situation. So before we go deeper into the mystical, I really just want us to take a moment, no more, and think about it. When have I had a wake-up call? If I had.
Yeah,
Where, right?
and I just want to add something to the way you're inviting us. I'd also say, like, can you recall a moment in your life where you were awake in a different way than we generally are, right? I mean, sometimes it's the wake-up call that just comes in, but it's a wonderful moment to also, to recall a moment where it was just different, that you knew. You said to yourself, I'm in a different state. I'm in a different state.
So chances are, if you already self-selected to be here, you might be a little closer to be talking about this without completely leaving, walking out the door. So let us take literally 2 minutes. This is just a taste. You got all tomorrow to talk about this. Please turn to each other or sit in your own private space and think, or turn to someone you don't know. A moment of wake up, or a moment where you felt awake in a different way for whatever reason. And those joining us online, we invite you to write it in the comments if you'd like, or really just take it into your heart.
Yeah, it can be a tiny moment.
Tiny
It can be
moment. Let's
soft.
share. Even if
It
it's
can be
like,
of
I
all
never had
colors.
it. And we can do it off the mic. So new.
When my father died, and Yeah, but that's a moment.
Well, I was just getting really interested in that texture. Like as you were talking about it, I was like, this is pretty neat.
It's like an eye of a fly.
Exactly. Yes, I was enjoying that. And I guess in a more dramatic was in January, Chodo had knee replacement and he like couldn't walk for quite a long time. And then one day I just turned the corner in our apartment and there he was standing in the kitchen. And I just burst into tears. I was like, you're standing in the kitchen. And it was like his standing in the kitchen mess. And how extraordinary and how ephemeral that is.
How ephemeral.
It was just so beautiful. Like just like I really saw him in the kitchen. Just standing there with a cup. It was extraordinary.
So I am sad to bring us back from these very sacred murmurings. I won't share what we've talked about, but there are so many beautiful moments in our lives, big and small, where we feel more awake and present. And I hope you too were able to just begin to go there. And so I want to take it back to the two of you to take us deeper into the makings of this waking upness, the Shiviti, through both how these traditions speak together.
Come on, dummy. And, you know, to me, it's this, we make things so complicated. And I'll just share very briefly, it's like that we were talking about our moments, and I just remember Chodo when he had his knee replacement, and just seeing him finally after weeks, some of you know about that experience, seeing him standing in the kitchen with a glass was so extraordinary. I was like, you're standing in the kitchen, look at you. Standing there with a glass of water. And it was so, it just reminded me of like, look, stupid. You know, just like, come on, come on, come on. Wake up, wake up.
Yeah.
Don't miss it. It also reminds me of one other quick thing. So I just love that William Blake said, Moses didn't see the burning bush. He just saw the bush.
That was a Zen koan.
Bam.
Right. Right. And I want to add from this Zohar piece, I want to say that I love the image of the Torah sends voices all the time. Look, right? And the Zohar always describes her as this feminine persona, right? The Torah, the beloved. And her calling isn't reproaching or screaming or threatening. She calls with love. She calls with love to wake up. And I think that's so interesting, right? It's not, there's not a hammer, a sledgehammer on your head, which also happens in the Zohar. That generally comes from a celestial voice that is much more impatient about the fact that we tend to sleep. And I think one of the questions is, if we could be awake, like, what would it be like to be awake? But if we could be awake, why don't we wake up? Right? That's the $1 million question that I think these I think thinkers all over the world, they felt that, like, what is it? And I just want to put out there that there's many reasons not to wake up. There's many, think of it. First of all, it can be really frightening to wake up. And it could be very lonesome to wake up if people around you are not into waking up. And it could be also very daunting, like if I'm awake and others are not where I am, what will be my role? What am I supposed to do? Who am I going to be with? Who's going to show me? Who's going to show me the way? I mean, why wake up if all of culture is trying to go the other way? Like, what would be the meaning of doing that? What will I have to do once I see things? And I suppose there's hundreds of other reasons, right? There's also the comfort of what we know. If we love sleep, then like, we don't know another state. And that's why it's so interesting when we recall moments where our state of consciousness was of a different quality. And I'm thinking of it that when the captain says to Jonah, hey, get up. There's work to do, get up, there's a storm. The ship of humanity is rolling in this ocean and in the storm. Wake up. It's the adrenaline call. It's the emergency call. It's the wake up. It's the strong part of the wake up call. I think one of the things that I've found that for me have been like amazing about the Zohar is that many times they're speaking of a much softer waking up. It's not that adrenaline driven or, fear of death or standing at the precipice. It's the wakefulness of intimacy. It's the wakefulness of love. It's the wakefulness of the quiet hours of the night, of just being awakened because there's less distraction, because there's friendship, because people are sitting and studying Torah or they're making music, and something new awakens up, which is of a very different quality, right? And also in Hebrew, waking or awakening and arousing are the same word, right? Le'ha'ir and le'orer. And in the book of Song of Songs, which is the most wonderful language of love, right? There's many places where the female beloved, she says to her girlfriends, to her friends, she says, do not awaken and arouse love, or awaken and arouse love until it's happening. But in Hebrew, they come together, so they connect between the idea of waking up, waking from slumber into a wakeful state. But they're also speaking of arousing, which is le'orer, which is actually the quickening of blood, right? The quickening of and then the heating of our breath, and then the ability to be in a state that is very different than we were when we weren't in that state of love or in the state of passion. So I think that's another thing, the poetic, right? The music comes from that soft nocturnal state of awakening. Which is very special, I think, also to add to that, to the varieties of wakefulness.
I want to ask a stupid question in the spirit of this thing before we get into more texts. You're talking about waking up. I get that there are times in our lives when we are in a different state of consciousness. A piece of music mesmerizes me. There might be substances involved. And then I am in a different mindset, whether that is a glass of wine or LSD. There are There is what happens in a deep state of meditation, deep prayer. But when we're talking about wake up, slumber versus wake up, in the basic context of this conversation, what are we talking about? Waking up from just like, I'm just thinking about business, my day, and suddenly there is spirituality. Or I see my lover standing in the kitchen and I'm more aware. Like, what's the 101 basic here, if I may, of this waking up?
I'm not sure it's a 101.
No, I know, that's not a fair question, but
No, I'm not sure. No. It's good to ask it, like to try and bring it down. But I think it's that clarity. I think it's clarity about reality outside. I think many times it's something opening of clarity about inside. And sometimes actually the clarity is about the fact that there's so many layers to reality that when that kind of hits us as a moment of wakefulness, it's to say, wow, yeah, that's reality. It has all that. It has all these levels. It has all that beauty. It has all the simplicity of the cup. It has all these levels, which I think is what mystical traditions teach us. But to be awake is to be awake to that wonder, I think, also. And that's why it's not about being woke. Because it's not an ideological, I think, it's not an ideological wakefulness. It's knowing that there are different states. And maybe that's why the verse that we underlined together was this beautiful verse from Psalms that David says, Gal enai va'abita niflaot mitoratecha. Unveil my eyes.
that might be the next slide,
Right.
for all we know.
I don't know how how do we operate this? Okay. No, it's not this one, but it doesn't matter. To say, unveil or open my eyes so that I can see wonders is such an amazing thing to say, so that I can see wonders from your Torah, right? So it's speaking about Torah. It's speaking about, that's what David, the mystic, it's David, the poet, it's the nocturnal David is saying, unveil my eyes. And I'm thinking, it's so amazing that we know the experience, that sometimes we feel that we're sleeping, that there's a thin veil covering. We can't see it. It looks as if it's transparent, but we know that it's there, and we're asking for the ways for that to be open. So I think that's one thing of saying, what does it mean to wake up? What we do with it, how we take it into action, how we take it into intention, how we take it into speech, what does it do to our hands? I think that's the next stage.
Okay.
But I think they're talking about that.
Clarity and wonder.
Yeah.
So, two things come to mind for me. One is, first of all, there's a loneliness to waking up, in my experience. When you remove the scales from your eyes, it is not just that exquisite beauty that we wake up to, but to me, in the Zen tradition, we talk about waking up to the 5 flavors of life, to the salty, to the sour, to the bitter, to the sweetness, to the savory. And so to me, it's about so whatever is happening is that opportunity. And that can be very lonely. And I think that is why, as you were teaching tonight, is just about why community is so important. Because and I think that we don't do it because we'll be so exposed and lonely. And then what do we do with our loneliness and our anxiety of not feeling met and experienced and in the flow and connected and alive? And so I feel that that's why the study and practice together is essential, because it's too hard. And as often I like to draw on the image of the lone wolf, and sometimes a lone wolf is scouting for the pack, but mostly they are sick. And so to really pay attention to our own loneliness on this awakening path is so important, because I think that many, I know myself, when I came to this kind of beginning to experience these kinds of awakening moments, it was incredibly disturbing. And because I felt so exposed and alone. And so I think that to really be with a teacher and a guide is so important, because otherwise it's so hard. And so wakefulness, and I think that's why it's like, we just like want to keep going back to sleep, or why, this incredible text, the Zohar from the Middle Ages, or earlier, the land of the lotus eaters in the Odyssey, where they're just like going to sleep and give me another lotus, man, and I'm going to go to sleep forever, So I think that there's a reason for that, and we understand that sleepiness. And how do we have love and compassion for that part of ourselves, and equally love and compassion for those around us who are just, going to sleep.
What it's reminding me of what you're saying now is there's a wonderful, wonderful teaching of Rabbi Nachman, not 13th century, but 18th century, beginning of 19th century, in Ukraine, who really was an incredible genius. And he said something very wonderful that I just thought about in this context. He says, people are asleep. People are asleep. He says, look, I'm looking around and I see that people are asleep and they're good people. So he says, why are they asleep? And then he says, when we are fed spiritual food that we cannot digest, we fall asleep. Wow. He doesn't say, oh, it's because of the evil, it's because of the suffering. No. He says, when we can't handle what is coming into us, and it might be grand. It doesn't have to be, the garbage you're getting from the advertisement or something. But when there isn't a system that can work it through, we fall asleep. And when we fall asleep, he says, you need good people around to wake you up so it won't be total trauma to wake up. Because it's not easy to wake up. He says exactly that. It would be like taking somebody who's, had an eye injury and their eyes have been covered up for days, and then tearing that open. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't come to people and scream them into wakefulness, because it won't work. So he says, you have to tell them stories.
Right.
Tell them
His
stories.
favorite quote, "Let me tell you bedtime stories that will wake you up."
Yeah, let me tell you bedtime stories that will wake you up.
I want to tell you a quick bedtime story.
Yeah.
It's getting there.
Better be, because
So it's very quick, and so in our building there's this porter named Manny, and he's in charge of the garbage, the thing that none of us want to deal with. So just think about, fill in the blank, what's that for you and what you want someone else to do. And one day I was walking out, and on the street someone had opened all the trash bags on the street. Maybe like 40 bags, like all over the street, deep garbage. And I looked at it and to myself and I was like, oh. And in the middle of this garbage patch was Manny. And he said, "Good morning." It was like the best image to me for what we're talking about. In the midst of it, I said, "How's it going, Manny?" He's like, "I've got a lot of work to do." And I said, "That is the most awesome attitude." He's like, "Let's do it." And I just realized, like, what a beautiful, like, sometimes I think that I really appreciate that quote and to really think about, yeah, we get these big teachings and they're undigestible, but it's so beautiful. And, then I asked Manny, so like, how are you going to start? He's like, with this piece. So you start with one thing. You're surrounded by shit, and you start with the nearest piece of shit, like you clean it up. And I just found it so inspiring and joyful. With this piece, how are you going to start? I'm going to start right here. Yeah. So.
Wow, what a beautiful story.
Holy shit.
Manny.
Holy shit. Thank you,
So
Manny.
I want to say thank you for that bedtime story that is waking me up. It's 10:15. We're going to be kicked out of here at 11. And this beautiful Zen Zohar, may many more continue, is going to end at 10:30. So I know we have a bunch of texts, lofty and low, rich and poetic. We also want to hear from you. So why don't we take a couple more minutes, whatever you all want to share, and then let's see what folks say, and to be continued. Is anything else more from the text or from the beautiful poetry you looked at? Clearly we're just scratching it.
I think I'll just, just kind of pick up on one thing, but if we're talking about awakening, in the Zohar, there's a few like basic laws of nature, okay? So the basic Zoharic law number 1 is that awakening does not come from above. Awakening starts from below. That's the formula. That's the way they say it. There's first itaruta delectata, the awakening from below in Aramaic, and then it doesn't come like gratis as grace, awakening from somewhere else. And I think it has to do with the story about Manny. But there's something very, very wonderful about saying awakening can start with something very, very small. But in order to start the dynamic of flow, right, the awakening is expected from us, from our world. Below is our world. It's the human world. It's our little choices. That's where it starts. And just to bring it to the story here, there's a story in Tanakh, in the Bible, about a woman who her husband died, and people are coming to take away her 2 children because she hasn't paid her debts. And she comes to Elisha, the prophet, and she says, "Look, this is terrible. They're going to take everything away. I have nothing." And he says to her, "What do you have? What do you have?" And she says, "I have a thumbful of oil." That's a thumbnail full of oil. That's all I have. That's a thumbnail. And the Zohar says, at that moment, Elisha is totally kind of relieved and relaxed. He says, "Okay, let's start with a thumbful of oil." That's a place where blessings can reside. That's where the awakening from above can work with the awakening from below. And it's a beautiful story. It's saying, yeah, it can be looking inside and seeing what is it that I can bring to this state of wakefulness. It can be that small, right? That's why it says it's like a flame. Just keep that flame try to keep that flame of wakefulness alive. So I don't want to go into the text. I think it's too late at night. I mean, it's time for music, but not for, but the idea is that it is upon us, aleinu. It's upon us to do the awakening and the tickling and the arousing back into life of things and to wakefulness. And it's not about waiting for someone else who's going to do it for us. It's ours. So that's something that I thought is, wonderful
Beautiful.
to bring from this tradition.
Thank you.
I would just add, so the one little thing, I just reminded of my great uncle Victor, who was in a concentration camp, and he was an artist, and the amazement that he would tell in this part of the story of finding the tip of a pencil that had broken off, and how extraordinary it was. And then a week later, he found a tiny piece of paper, like a little ripped corner of a paper, and he was able to draw a horse because he wanted an image of strength for himself. And it was actually what was found and where he got a job and was shown to be skilled. But the joy of writing this and finding this little tip of a pencil, and that he knew eventually he would find a little piece of paper. And how, in some ways, it's such a wonderful reminder for me in my daily life to, how do I find just like, what do I have?
What do I have?
What do I have? So to me, this is going back to Shiviti and actually what's right now instead of how I wished it was.
What is? Yeah, thank you. Wow, I love the story about the little pencil and the piece of paper and the little thumbnail of oil. I'm looking at the last line on the slide from this Zohar. Blessings from above manifest only at the sight of substance, not emptiness. It is so easy to get sucked into the isn't and the negative and how bad it all is. And I do it all the time. But there's something about waking up where you get up in the morning and you say, Modani, I'm grateful. What's good? What can I work with here? And there's something about that very, very basic waking up, from Manny's story to the others that I know we've shared tonight, that is just an invitation to, in ways so tiny and significant, to just begin, open up our eyes to what is. And then there's more and more. There's a line from a poem by Yona Volach, this Israeli poet. She says, Tat hakara niftachat kmo menifa. Consciousness opens like a fan, just like, and all the layers. If I had a fan, I'd show it off. But, so, it is 10:23. Here's what I want to suggest, friends. First of all, so delicious. This will continue.
Yeah, that was just the beginning.
That was, we just scratched the teeny thumbnail of a teeny thing of oil. We're not going to answer any of the questions because who are we? But does anyone have anything in the 5 minutes we have to share? A thought, a comment, a reflection? I see a few hands, so take a second to think about it. Please make it brief so there's time for all of us. Dear Marika is here with a microphone. I see a hand out there, and there's another one in here. And we would love to hear just a few thoughts. And we'll end with a moment of silence, perhaps. Maybe, Koshin, you can end us with a bedtime story, silence, to wake us up.
Chag Sameach, everyone.
Chag Sameach.
For the speaker in the middle, you said
Melila.
something. Said something very profound for me about awakening, right? And we have in our lexicon the word woke, right? Those who are woke to the issues around them and not. And I feel I often struggle where I'm protesting, I'm organizing about an injustice, and everyone around me is sleeping. Right. It's like spiritual bypassing. Oh, it doesn't bother me. I don't really care. and it becomes tiring when you're the only one saying, look about this disparity that's happening. So I guess any inspiration you might have about waking people up, especially when it comes to, as we're talking about Aleinu, that it's on us to care about the issues that are both domestic and also national. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take more questions. And then again, I think this will be like Passover Eve. A lot of questions. Wherever you see, Marika, I trust you to see the hands.
Well, Amichai, when you asked the supposedly dumb question, what does it really mean to be awakened? I thought about the few times I've had that feeling, and I feel that it's like there's a halo or a beam of light over your head, and you feel that that everyone you're seeing, you can really see into their souls, and they can see your soul. And it's really a feeling of exaltation. So that's been my experience. I wish I had it all the time, but I feel very grateful that I have had it a few times.
Maybe it's precious because it's rare.
In my opinion, I think everybody could be awakened, and they are. They just have to dust themselves off a little bit.
Exactly.
And it's not like 100% of the time. I'm a meditator, and not to become a good meditator. It's to carry it through the whole day in the same fashion. So you always have moments of awakening and not, but you don't judge it. It just is. I don't know. It can't be 100% of the day. They'd send you away somewhere. So, and I love when Rabbi, maybe we're still going to do it. Instead of focusing on all the bad things we did during the year, you once did, let's focus on all the good things
That's
we
tomorrow
That's
afternoon.
tomorrow.
That's Neila. That's
tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you. I saw some more hands. A couple more. I think we have 3 minutes. Esther, you had your hand up? Marika, you're getting your exercise. Don't run too much. The fast has just begun. But thank you.
Thank you. Hi there. I am so blown away by the paradox that seems to live every moment, I think. And it seems to me that there's more people awake than ever, and at the same time, this is just my experience, that the polarity, we're sort of in a civil war of consciousness and awakeness, I think, and how to bring the middle together a little bit, instead of going to how to move towards the middle, because just a little bit goes a long way, as you're saying. But there seems to be there's more people really mobilized. And yet we're combating sort of because of social media, I think, and all of that, like more insanity on the other side. So do you feel it's more polarized than ever in sleeping and awakeness, I guess?
It's interesting that some of us want to go to consciousness, and some of us want to go to consciousness, but some of us want to stay with awakening. And what I heard Melilla talk about is that this awakening is actually not in big causes, ideologies, activism, but it's very intimate. It's small. It's not small because the item is small. It's small because it's an intimate, I would call your awakening, an erotic intimacy with a sense of aliveness and vibrancy and radiance that changes your experience of the everyday. That's the opposite of dullness or sleepiness, is that you have, it's interesting you didn't use the word, but that is what you're talking about, is this erotic awakening.
Song of Songs is all eros. That is the language, right? That's where it comes from. The whole language comes from the Song of Songs. So the erotic is the backdrop of it all, I think. You're right.
My friends, I wish we could sit here all night and do this. I really think we should next year. We'll figure out the con. But before you leave, let's just take a fraction of a wokeful second to appreciate the fact that we are here now. It isn't always possible, and it always was not, that a Zen teacher and a Kabbalah Zohar teacher and all of us are taking time to sit together and listen to each other and learn together, focus on what is, and expand it into a larger sense of being here, being present, being conscious, being awake at a 10:30 at night on a Tuesday night in the middle of your life that happens to be Yom Kippur.
And it's Yom Kippur. That's the wonderful thing.
So yeah, this is one of those nights where a lot of veils are open. I'm so grateful to you both for helping us unveil the veils a little more asunder. I wonder, Koshin, if you can help us just really wrap this with a very short presence before we really go off to sleep.
So let's just take less than a minute. Take a moment to adjust your posture, put your feet on the ground. So like Manny's instruction, just starting with this. Start with your feet, your sit bones. Allow your belly to be soft, your shoulders to be open, to realize you have a body because we live in this world where we have bodies. And the last is grounded, soft, open, and upright. So to consider what you could do now. One small thing. One breath. And actually be here. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, friends. What a treat. Friends, I invite you to softly leave this beautiful sanctuary. We'll be back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. Please greet each other in the lobby if you meet new friends. Thank you so much for the team here at TPAC for welcoming us and taking care of this night. Gmar Tov, Laila Tov. Pleasure to wake up with you.
Mazel tov.
And Mazel Tov as well.